Main screen turn on. Listen to me rant, watch me play a game, or preferably try to do both at the same time. This is Discourse Display. This video subject: Satoru Iwata, due to his unfortunate and early passing. He died on the 11th of this month, losing a battle against cancer at the age of 55. I can't really find how long he was fighting against his illness, but it's known that as early as June 2014 he was getting operations for it. Why I'm going to talk about the man over Earthbound footage? Well, there were quite a few options, and I want to go over them to start out with. I could have gone with Balloon Fight, one of his earliest games, or NES Tournament Golf, his first Nintendo game, but I don't think either would have given particularly rousing material to watch, and I'm not really willing to shell out cash for those games either. Pokemon Stadium is another one I could have used. The man apparently rewrote the entire coding of the battle system from the red and green versions to be used in the N64 game. Another Pokemon one I could have used was either Gold or Silver, since he created some compression tools that allowed Game Freak to stuff Kanto into the cartridge as well, instead of it being crammed full after just Johto. However, I already have video ideas for these games and want to do something with Blue, Red and Yellow before those anyway. Melee is another one, since he did a lot of work near the end of its development so it would get released on time, but I've talked about and shown more than enough Smash in this series as it is. So that leaves this one. Ape was having a hard time with this game, being at work on it for 4 years already and still not being able to fully realize what they had planned for the game, and it was estimated that it would take at least 2 more years of work to get it done, in a best case scenario. Iwata and his team came in to help, and it was finished half a year later. So all these games I could have used were ones the man worked on. Because what better way to honor him than to play the games he worked on and loved so dearly? It also ties into a video I did earlier on financially supporting the overseas release of Mother 3, so I have now gone full circle with that as well. I never really played this game either because I live in Europe and it didn't get an official release here, so it's entirely possible I suck at it, but bear with me. I feel like Iwata is often underappreciated for what he actually did for the gaming industry in general, and for Nintendo as a whole. All the way back in 1993, after 10 years of working at HAL, he became president of that company. The company was on the verge of bankruptcy at the time, but Iwata got him out of that tight spot and stabilized their finances. In 2000, he took the position as head of corporate planning with Nintendo, which was in the time of the end of the Nintendo 64 and the beginning of the GameCube. In the fiscal year of 2001, the company's profit rose by a huge 41%, and a year later he would succeed Hiroshi Yamauchi and become the 4th president of Nintendo, but being the first in the position not related to that family line. One can say what they want about the DS and the Wii, but they made huge sales for Nintendo, and I can't say if the previous president already greenlighted these before his leave, or if Iwata had his hand in that, but at the very least they launched under his watch, and he was heavily involved with their production. As far as I'm concerned, the DS is a terrific system and rightfully holds the title of best-selling handheld, and the Wii is a fun home console that houses so many great games and hidden gems. And the two competitors also saw the potential, as the PlayStation 3 blatantly copied the hardware with their PlayStation Move, and Microsoft tried to push it to the next level with the Kinect. The 3DS and Wii U are branded as failures by many, but honestly, they were the next logical step in the evolution lines of the machines, being better than their predecessor in pretty much every way. However, when R&D on these systems began, which was probably pretty soon after the release of the previous gadgets, I don't think it was possible to predict that the slew of casual gamers would not follow Nintendo into the next generation, but would instead fiddle around with mobile gaming. It was of course obvious that the so-called hardcore gamers would stick to the next Microsoft and Sony upgrades, leaving them with just Nintendo fanboys, whose numbers have dwindled over the years as is. I don't think it's fair to contribute this entirely to just Iwata, and he was the driving force in the partnership between Nintendo and mobile provider Dina to publish titles in the mobile game market, in such admitting the lack of foresight that was made. At the other end of the spectrum, with Nintendo in a lesser financial position than before, he willingly cut his own salary by 50% to avoid having to fire anyone, which I think in an age where CEOs leave companies after failures, but with huge bonuses for doing so, is something to be admired. So basically, he was a programming prodigy, a brilliant businessman, and a joy to work with. I remember reading a message from an employee at Nintendo of America, probably on Twitter, but I forget where exactly, that said that whenever Iwata was in the office, he would change the Street Pass text to "Hello, NOA." He broke barriers by responding to fans through social media and by posting his Iwata Asks interviews. When the 3DS had its price drop, he made amends to the early buyers by giving them a choice of free games. He had an amazingly dry sense of humor, and Nintendo Directs will never be the same again. Rest in peace, Iwata-san.